Hey guys, Carlo Filippone here, your muscle chef, ready to talk to you about this guy, the chicken pound. What do we do with the chicken pound? We prepare grilled chicken in different flavors, 6 to be exact. If you're serious about bodybuilding and you meal prep, don't go anywhere else. This is the company for you.
RX Television on RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave. This is the Olympia week version of Ask Dave, where Dave's going to take all your questions, of course, on diet, training, supplementation, and so on and so forth. But we wanted to theme this episode to be the Olympia version episode of Ask Dave. So as we put it out there, we wanted to get your questions on this upcoming Olympia as well as past Olympia questions. Let's get this story loaded with a lot of Olympia-related questions. That's what we wanted to do for this episode. Again, this upcoming weekend with Olympia weekend, we're going to be loading up your story on Instagram, your feed. Keep it locked to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe below. You're not going to miss any of our videos from this upcoming Olympia weekend. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, that not all. We are helping our viewers power through Olympia week at speciesnutrition.com.
Yeah, I know you guys need a lot of endurance because we have so much coverage. We're going to have Sid and Chris out there with Ralph Noble, and they're going to be doing some amazing coverage out there. And I got to sit home and watch all this, so I need endurance. And in order to get endurance, you got to use creatine, right? And so just for you guys, I love to give you these great sales. Unfortunately, probably by the time you watch this, it'll all be sold out already, but that's the way things go. I'm going to give you a free tub. I'm not even going to give you a discount. I'm going to give it to you for free. Free tub of CREALYZE if you spend $20 or more, which is nothing. You can buy one thing on the website at speciesnutrition.com. Make sure on checkout you actually select that you want your free tub of CREALYZE. If you don't, you're not going to get it. So free tub of CREALYZE at speciesnutrition.com for the Olympia weekend. Supplies limited, of course. Once you wipe me out, I can't give you any more. There's no rain checks. So guys, you got to act quickly. Free tub. Now this is our super micronized or ultra micronized creatine. We take the creatine granules, we pulverize it, then we pulverize it again, almost into like a baby powder. The reason we do that is so when you mix it in water, it dissolves. Otherwise, it just sits in the bottom of the cup, or it just sits in your intestinal tract and you poop it out. So this stuff has got to become solubilized in water in order for you to absorb it. This is our ultra micronized creatine monohydrate. I love this product. I have all my guys, especially in the off season, using this, and girls, post-workout, 5 grams. I'm telling you, you'll feel a difference. The muscles will swell. You're going to get a better volumization of the muscles. You're going to get better endurance. And if you're watching Olympia coverage this weekend, that's what you need because there's a lot of stuff coming your way.
So again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below to the RX Muscle YouTube channel. And if you want to take advantage of this great deal, the link is going to be below in the description in the show bio. CREALYZE free at speciesnutrition.com with purchase of $20 or more at the website. Of course, free shipping for orders of $100 or more in the U.S.
And Sid, I want to also point out that, I'm very impressed. Sid runs our RX Muscle Instagram, and he's so on the ball in that I go to the Instagram sometimes to find out what's going on because sometimes he gets the stuff up before we even talk on the phone. So if you haven't followed the official _RX Muscle Instagram, make sure you do that as well because this way you'll be kept up to date all weekend long on everything that's going on out there.
Well, let's get to the questions. The first 2 questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, the first question, I'm trying to achieve more of a class golden era physique. How does your anabolic cycle differ from someone trying to achieve this look over the mass monster or blown out look of today?
You know what the truth of the matter is? You can't really dictate what your physique is going to look like. Your physique is your physique. Your genetics are your genetics. I never personally would have had a classic looking 70s or 80s physique. That's not just the way my body's built. I needed to add a tremendous amount of mass to my body to look impressive because my shoulders are genetically not wide, bone structure wise, so I needed to overcompensate by putting more muscle on them. So you have to kind of go with what your physique is. There's no golden era physique. You want to be softer? Is that what you want to do? Then don't diet as hard, and you can come in smoother. I think a lot of people say, oh, I have a golden era physique because they just don't want to diet and get shredded, If that's really what you don't want, if that's really what you want, then do it. You're not going to place well at shows. Shows are won on conditioning. So everyone's physique is different. You know, if you don't want to have big legs, don't train your legs. You know, it's really up to you what the look of your physique you want. You know, some people have a certain ideal in their mind, you know, of how they want to look. Train for that. If you don't want big, you know, the funny thing is, I didn't even know this, but Serge Nubret, Chris Nacito told me, Serge Nubret didn't really train his legs a lot because he didn't think that big legs were like aesthetic looking, which I found interesting because he probably could have had way better legs than he did, but he didn't squat or anything like that. He did lighter weights for his legs. And I found that interesting, you know, because he had an ideal in his mind of what he wanted to look like, and he stuck to that no matter what was winning shows or not winning shows. So you got to pick what you want for yourself. And how do you do it? The drugs are the drugs. Whether you take, you know, 1,000 milligrams of testosterone or you take 750 milligrams, does it really matter? No. Build as much muscle as you want and then maintain it. That's the answer to the question.
Second question, again, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, what's the craziest last day of show prep carb you've been involved in, and why?
You know, if you have to eat an exorbitant amount of carbs that last day before a show, you probably didn't do your prep work prior to that. You know, now some guys have to make a weight class the day before, and so they have to try to force feed. The problem is you can only absorb so many calories, you know what I mean? That's why when I carb guys up, I like to carb them up on carbs and fats, because together it takes a little longer to absorb, but what happens is you get a much fuller look to the muscle. So you find that you don't have to eat as many grams of carbs. If you're eating 30 grams of fat in a meal with your whatever, 30, 40 grams of protein, and then you also add another 50 or 60 grams of carbs, that's going to give you a much fuller look than if you just ate no fat. You know, you ate your protein and then had, you know, 100 grams of carbs. Because it just is. For some reason, if the carbs go in too quickly, sometimes I find they don't load as glycogen as much. They get more burned up for fuel. Remember, if you infuse your bloodstream with a lot of glucose, okay, your body's going to rev its metabolism and it's going to start burning that stuff up for fuel. If you take fats with your carbs, it delays the absorption a little bit of the carbs, so they trickle into the bloodstream. They could still be a high amount, but they're trickling in, and then the fats also obviously are there as well. I just find it gives you. So to answer your question, the craziest last day, I don't even know. I don't know. I used to carb up on about a cup to a cup and a half of rice, you know, usually per meal, and I would do cream of wheat or cream of rice. I like those two as well. I do grits. And then I would start munching on rice cakes. And one year, I probably ate like 3 bags of rice cakes, like the day before the show. My metabolism was so crazy. It was stupid, actually. I should have been eating denser food. This is before I understood about fats. I ate so many bags of rice cakes that the roof of my mouth was like raw. Any of you guys who eat rice cakes probably know about that. If you eat a lot of rice cakes, it's abrasive. And if you're not drinking, it really will actually cut the roof of your mouth up and leave it really sore. And it was driving me nuts because I had this like raw roof of my mouth. After a while, the rice cakes is just like, it's like eating styrofoam, you know. And but I ate probably at least 1,000 grams of carbs that day. And I still wasn't full. The following year, I incorporated fats with my carbs, and it was like a world of difference. I was able to eat half as many carbs, okay, and I looked 10 times better because the fats help fill out the muscle as well.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, like Dave mentioned, if you're not already following us, our handle is official_RXMuscle, and over the course of the next 5-6 days, we're going to be loading up your story, your feed, all the updates, everything going on in Vegas we're going to have on our Instagram story, and then, of course, everything else that we're going to have on YouTube. So we put it out there for you to give us your best Olympia-related questions. We're going to still mix in questions on training and diet as well, but we do want to get a heavy dose of Olympia-related questions. So first we go to Sam Gibson, best English bodybuilder on the scene at the moment. Who will place higher at the Olympia, Nathan or Luke?
Luke. I'm not even going to think about it. Luke. I think Luke is more complete. I think Luke is surging. I think that Nathan has been having a tough year. He didn't look good in Vancouver. Everyone's talking about how great Hadi Choopan looked. Really, it was really Nathan, the Asher was off, and that's really why he lost to Hadi Choopan. Nothing to take away from not taking anything away from Hadi, but Nathan was not the Nathan we've seen on the stage before. So I think Luke has got the momentum going. He's going to win it. You know, Sid, I want to just tell you, I do I have a snake channel, a reptile channel called Muscle Serpents University on YouTube, and I do it. I do a daily vlog, like 5 days a week. I'll do some updates from my snake room and show people some of the stuff I'm working with and stuff like that. So I was outside today and I was doing my pre-Olympia. I was doing an outdoor introduction to my my snake video, and I had this crystal boa. It's like a world's first I produced. It's a blue-eyed, crazy-looking snake, and the thing decided it was going to bite me in the face. Tyler's got the footage up there. Watch this. Oh, there it goes. So if anyone was wondering why I have a mark on my head and my nose, it hit me so fast. I think it got me twice, and it didn't really hurt. It just kind of stunned me. That's for sure. And hey, it comes with the territory, man. Right? Bodybuilding, you can tear a pec. Snakes, you can get bit in the face. The moral of the story is don't hold the snake up to your face, especially when you're not paying attention and you're talking into a camera. So I thought I know people like to see all the follies that occur in my life when I fall down and all my accidents. So here you guys go.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
Ethan Dolly, do you think Josh Lenartowicz could have made top 5 had he competed this year?
Absolutely, yes. Matter of fact, I was talking about Josh Lenartowicz on the Heavy Muscle Radio show Monday night, and while Chris and I were recording, we were recording it on Sunday night. I had sent him a Facebook message like last week telling him, wishing him a speedy recovery and all this, and he wrote me back a really nice reply. I read it on Heavy Muscle Radio, but he's back, and he'll be back next year. What happened to him actually runs in his family, believe it or not. These tumors in the head are inheritable. So I guess someone else in his family has it. So he didn't know he had it. And now that it's out, doctor said it has nothing to do with bodybuilding, and he'll be back next year. So that's great news.
Let's go to JM Powell, good theoretical one here. Will the open division ever hit the $1 million prize money mark for the winner sometime in the future?
I don't see why not. I mean, right? It's gone up quite a bit. It was $100,000 for a long time, and then it took a huge jump. I forget. Remember that one year, all of a sudden they said David Pecker came out and said, "Phil, you're not getting $200,000 this year. You're getting $400,000."
Yeah,
so, that was a big jump. I think they should bring up the other divisions before they start adding more to the men's, open. But the good thing about the fact that the men's open gets so much more money, because we're always worried that classic is going to replace open bodybuilding, or 212 is going to take away people from open. The bottom line is that if the money's in the open, that's where people will go. And that's important that they keep that open very high prize money, because we want to see the biggest, freakiest bodybuilders on the planet. If you gave classic physique guys $400,000 for first prize, there'd be no one left in bodybuilding probably in the open. So I'm glad that the Mr. Olympia title still is the premier title in the world for bodybuilding.
Let's go to high_swole. Congrats on your new addition. In your opinion, who would win the all-time 212? Shawn Ray, Lee Priest, or Flex Lewis?
It's a very good question. Obviously I'm friends with Lee Priest, but I don't think that Lee could beat Shawn, because I think Shawn was better from behind than Lee was, and he had a slightly better structure. Although Lee, of all three of those guys, Lee's the freakiest, and I'm sure most people would rather look like Lee than those other guys. Now, the real battle, I think, would be between Shawn and Flex, and I think that Flex got a little bit harder than Shawn, but Shawn had that crazy separation to his muscles and just beautiful flow to his body. I gotta say, I think Shawn Ray would be the champion.
Let's go to Brooks Clark. Now, a lot of people have made this natural comparison. He goes, who will place higher, Bonac or Hadi? And he terms it the, quote, short guy battle.
I don't think there's any way Hadi beats Bonac. I don't think he can stand next to him. I think Bonac blows him away. Bonac's got a smaller waistline, better detail to his body. Hadi's got the freak factor, but I think Bonac's just got too many bells and whistles for Hadi to take him out.
Let's go to Lane Hughes. Typical Olympia level cycle in this current day and age compared to old school Olympia cycles.
What do they want to know about them?
Whatever you want to go with, intensity, frequency, aggressiveness.
Am I comparing them? Is that what they want?
Yeah, comparing them, right.
Well, guys back in the 80s and 90s didn't use a lot of drugs. They didn't think. I've told this story before. There was a point when I first started competing where Bill Phillips wrote a book, The Anabolic Reference Guide, where he put recommended dosages in there. Okay, no one took more than the upper limit of what he recommended in there, because he said these are the dosages you should use. That was like in stone. As far as all the people I knew, and I knew a lot of people back then, and a lot of people were asking me for advice, and I was telling them, and there were just dosages you didn't go over. It was, 1,000 milligrams of testosterone was the limit. You didn't go higher than that. Some people would, I'm taking an extra shot a week, and they wouldn't feel good, and then they wouldn't do it again. Same thing with GH. People wouldn't take more than 3 or 4 IUs of GH a day. That was it. You didn't do more than that. That you weren't allowed to. That's how it was. So the dosages were kind of limited. So if everyone was taking the same drugs, assuming you could get the stuff and afford it, then the only other factor coming into play had to be the training. And that's why training seemed to be so important in the 90s, because everyone used the same drug dosages essentially. If you could, like I said, if you could afford it and you were maxed out, so to speak, like if I was taking 4 IUs of GH and 1,000 tests and 400 milligrams of EQ and some Winstrol, then that was it. There was nothing else you took, So you had to worry about training. Who was going to train harder? That's why you had all kinds of training battles in the gym with guys, and you have everyone had a training partner. Everyone was pushing because the gym was the most important thing, and the drugs and the food were they were important, but they were just assumed that you're going to take care of that. Let's worry about training now. And I remember Bob Bonham used to hold something called I think it was Champions Day at his gym in New Jersey, Strong and Shapely, every year, and all the guys that placed top 5 at all the national level shows, like the Junior Nationals, Junior USA, Nationals USA, and North American, were invited, men and women. And we'd come and we would work out. That's what we did. We went there and worked out. Bob had food catered in by some sponsors and stuff like that. But the bottom line is that it was about training. We would go there, we would talk training, we would talk about, we'd push each other in the gym, and everyone would take a look at who's, looking good, who's going to be competing in a couple of weeks. And I think that training camaraderie, it's still there, but it's not there in the same level. Now everyone has to have a coach. All the guys in Venice have to be trained by someone. You don't see teams of guys training with each other anymore and pushing each other in the gym. And I think that's the variable that's missing. And I think the drugs don't mean anything. Guys take a lot more drugs nowadays, and a lot of them will rationalize, well, I don't know if they're full strength, I got to take more. I don't believe that. I think a lot of people do that just because they want to take more drugs, because they think that there's a secret behind it. Boston Lloyd has taken more drugs than anyone, and he'll tell you, I told him 4,000 times, and it took him 10 years to realize that I was right. More is not better. You're not going to build more muscle, So it is what it is. You guys can take away from what you want.
So specifically, we're getting a lot of questions as far as like top 3, top 4. Dave is going to be releasing a bunch of preview segments. Actually, Dave's recording them with Aaron Singerman on Classic Physique, on Open, and 212. So the specific predictions, you will have to wait for those ones in particular. But who do you think, Dave, this is from Tony Malzahn, who will be the shocker in the open class and make the top 6 that we're not talking about right now?
It's a good question. I was talking about this with Chris Aceto yesterday, and I was mentioning, what's his name? You know the guy I'm talking about from Texas.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Just say it for me so I don't...
Patrick Moore.
What? Patrick Moore, right. Patrick Moore is working with Chris Aceto. And I think he's going to be the dark horse in this lineup that no one's talking about. There are some dark horses that we are kind of talking about. No one's talking about Patrick Moore. And I could be completely wrong. I'm just telling you, from the pictures, the update pictures I've seen of him, he's made a lot of improvements. He's very dangerous. He's big. He's got great legs, small waist. He's almost like a young Cedric McMillan. So I think he could be dangerous. Unexpectedly dangerous, but I think that Cedric is the wild card here, because I think Cedric has beaten everyone before. If he brings the look that he brought to the Arnold Classic a few years ago when he won, he could win the show. I'm not saying he's going to, but he can certainly be in the top 5. So I don't think anyone has really pegged Cedric as a top 5 guy, because he's never placed top 5 at the Olympia, because he always seems to have something go wrong with him or some mishap happens. So he could be the legitimate dark horse, but I think Patrick Moore is someone that no one's talking about who could be dangerous.
Let's go to Alex Irizarry, and he's already setting up the dream scenario for 2020, that if Phil comes back, if Shawn comes back, Flex Lewis, who most likely will be in the Open as of next year, he goes on to assume that Brandon Curry is going to win this year, and then you figure he's going to be there next year. Assuming all those, and if Kai jumps in, by the way, he mentioned Kai as well, would that be one of the most exciting Olympias, in your opinion, ever?
Well, why don't we just throw Jay Cutler back in the mix as well, and Dorian? Let's give them a comeback as well. Come on, man. And Ronnie Coleman in the wheelchair. Now, look, the most exciting Olympia is the Olympia that's the most competitive. So if you want to throw names in there, great. But, when Muhammad Ali made a comeback and he was fighting, he had the name, but he couldn't fight like he did. So, I don't want to see guys coming back that are not at their best. Would it be exciting to see Kai and Phil and all those guys back on stage? Of course, because we're all fans of the sport. But if they are not at their best and they look like, like a shell of their best that we remember in our head, you're going to be disappointed. So that's why I think it's actually good that they're not coming back. Let's let these new guys now rise to the occasion and be the new guys that we're rooting for and that are going to be winning these shows. I think between Curry, Winkler, Bonac, of course you got the Dexter Jackson, the feel-good candidate in there with the wild card of like a Cedric McMillan, and then of course Juan Morel and Akeem Williams knocking on that door with Steve Kuklo as a possible wild card as well. You got a lot of excitement in there. Who knows who's going to win? I think that we're going to see a Mr. Olympia that we're happy with when the show's all said and done. And I think if Ruli Winkler wins, because he brings his best and he's got all that crazy mass, I think he's going to become a very, very popular Mr. Olympia. Because we haven't had Phil. Let's face it, Phil's been Mr. Olympia, and then Shawn Rhoden. These are not mass monsters. We're used to seeing Dorian and Ronnie Coleman in there and Haney. To see a guy like a Ruli Winkler win the Olympia would be obviously something that fans would really get behind, I'm sure, and he'd probably make a lot of money. But that's not to say that if Bonac won or if Curry won, that they wouldn't be popular as well. I'm just saying, historically, Mr. Olympia has always been the biggest, freakiest guy on stage, and so Ruli would fit that ticket perfectly.
Real quick, the link below in the article description, we're running a sale all week, all Olympia week long at speedsnutrition.com for CREALYZE. $20 purchase on anything on the website, you get a free tub of CREALYZE this week only. We are very pressed for time, Dave. We have a lot of content to record, so we're going to try to squeeze in 2 to 3 more questions. Very good one here from Adam Bruce. Seems that we're coming up on one of those, quote, era changes. Who do you see as that next top tier in the open class?
I think I said it before. I think Ruli Winkler is going to be a guy who could potentially be a Mr. Olympia for 4 or 5 years if he really wanted to, and if he steps up and brings the conditioning he wants. I think if like a Curry wins or if a Bonac wins, which both guys absolutely are qualified to win this show. If those guys win, I don't necessarily see it as a lock for another 5-year win. I think if Ruli figures out how to bring that conditioning that we know he has with all that mass he's got, I don't think anyone can beat him. I think once he's in that driver's seat, it's going to be hard to knock him out. Whereas a guy who's more of a shape guy would be a little easier because he's off a little bit. You get a guy a little bigger who comes in. Remember, we forgot to mention, Rami's going to be back next year also. This guy is a guy who could win the Olympia at any moment if he brings his best. So it's a year in flux. I think whoever wins, he's going to have to cement his legacy by winning again the next year. No one ever gives you really a lot of credibility if you only win one Olympia. You win 2 in a row, then it's not a fluke anymore. And unfortunately, that's just the way it's historically been. I mean, Samir won 1, right? And really never won again. Dickerson won 1, and he never was able to, put up another one. Although a lot of people said that Dickerson should have won in 1980 when Arnold won that controversial one. So those guys didn't really get the credibility, the street cred. Jay won 3. He's got, or 4. He's got tons of credibility. Dorian obviously got 6. Haney 8. Ronnie 8. Phil 7. Those guys are, people really, you can't say nothing about those guys because they. But you win 1, like Rhoden. I think Rhoden was really looking to come back this year because if he would have won again, people would have seen him as a legitimate, title holder, and it wasn't just a fluke that he won or that, by some reason Phil beat himself last year. So whoever wins this year, the next year will be the big one. And like people pointed out, in 2020, we're going to see a lot of new talent come into that pool. The issue is aside from Big Ramy, I don't think there's anyone else out there who's better than what we got going up there this year, believe it or not. Assuming, because I don't think Phil's ever going to come back. I really don't. I think that he's focused on business now, and he's like, you know what? He's probably like, God, I'm so happy I don't have to diet anymore. So whoever wins this year, okay, this is the crop of guys that probably will be unbeatable, aside from on the outside chance of a Big Ramy coming in at his best, which we have yet to see. So don't think that this is a boring Olympia. This Olympia is setting the stage for the future. And we'll talk about this Olympia as being very important 5 years from now. We don't realize how important it is now because we feel like let down that Shawn's not going to be on stage and that Phil's not going to be there. But bottom line is, down the road, we'll realize this was an important Olympia, historically speaking.
Interesting one here from Kausik Damir, and it's something that you've kind of talked about as far as the judges are going to judge what's on stage. So the idea of direction may not exactly apply, but what he wants to know is, would the judges... Okay, so his question is whether the judges will look more for that Shawn Rhoden look, the tight midsection, or will it return to the mass monsters? I'll ask it in this manner. Do you think the tight midsection will be a point of emphasis now and going forward, given what we saw last year?
Yeah, but if it looks bad, they're not going to allow the person to win. But if it's something that's, look, Ruley's huge, right? When you're that big, if you're standing, from the side and you're not holding, your stomach in, it's going to stick out, That shouldn't cost him the Olympia. If Ruley comes in ridiculous, okay, shredded, I'm talking like everywhere, the best that we've seen him, there's no way he's losing this Olympia. He's too big for these guys. And his shape is not bad. He's so big on top and his arms and he's got taper, he's got legs. He's just got to come in a little harder. If he does, no one's beating this guy. That's it. It's over. Game over. That's what we want. They like muscle. So when you say, are they going to go for a Curry look? No, they're going to go for whatever looks the best up there. And historically, Mr. Olympia is the biggest, hardest guy. If the biggest, hardest guy in the lineup, who's now Ruley Winkler, it's not Ramy anymore because Ramy's not here. If he comes in shape, he's not losing. He was third last year. So he's next in line. Phil and Rhoden are gone. So Ruley is historically set to take the title. He has to just show up in condition now. That's all.
Last one, theoretical one from Old School Matt. If someone gave you a time machine and said you could have won one Mr. Olympia title, but all the stuff with RXMuscle would have never existed, would you do it?
Can I pick the title I'm going to win?
Sorry? Yeah, no.
I get to pick the year too, right?
Sure.
Okay. If I would choose beating Arnold at the 75 Olympia that was made into the movie Pumping Iron, and I would forego RXMuscle for that, because if I would have beat Arnold at 75 Olympia and been in the movie Pumping Iron, I would probably be in Hollywood right now making a lot of money, right? So yeah, I would have picked that for sure. Look, as a bodybuilder, we all want to be Mr. Olympia. The reality is that we all can't be Mr. Olympia. So at some point you realize what your genetic or what your limitations are, and then you say, okay, realistically, I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia. How can I stay in the sport and make money from the sport because I like it that much, right? I put so much time and effort into it. I want to extract something from it, and I want to give back something to it. And that's what I did. But I did what I did was because that's what I'm good at. Okay? My gift is that, I'm able to teach people. My father was a teacher. I'm a teacher, even though I didn't go to teacher's college like my father went to. I went to the School of Hard Knocks teaching. I could teach people about how to, be healthy, how to lose weight, how to gain muscle, how to use, supplements and performance enhancing stuff responsibly. I'm a teacher, okay, and this is my pulpit now. The classroom is no longer the pulpit, although I do teach my guru course, 4 times a year. Really, YouTube is the pulpit now. So that's my pulpit, and that's what I do. I sit there and I educate people, and I'm good at it, and I get paid for doing it. So that's my niche. If my niche was to win the Mr. Olympia competition, I'd be Mr. Olympia. But so everyone's got to find what they do best and then do it. So unfortunately, you can't go back in time and you can't change things. But if I did, yeah, I probably would want to beat Arnold at Pumping Iron. That would have immortalized me as a bodybuilder and cemented my legacy. But it is what it is, though. But it wasn't to be.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave, the Olympia version episode of Ask Dave. Again, right now, the link below, speciesnutrition.com, CREALYZE for free, $20 purchase at speciesnutrition.com. For Dave Palumbo and Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.